First Class restarted the franchise, Days of Future Past went back and reset a brand new timeline, and we've now come to Apocalypse, and I like this one. When the world's first mutant re-emerges, intending to thrive upon the destruction of the world, the X-Men must unite to fight off this apocalyptic threat. But before I probably start today with my review for X-Men Apocalypse, let me know your thoughts on this film. Do you like it like I do? Are you one of the people that don't enjoy it? Anything and everything down there. I'm reviewing every single X-Men movie ahead of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. You can check out all the reviews I've done so far right up here, all the movies that came before this one. And if you like these reviews, if you like movies and TV, this is the place to be. Consider clicking that subscribe button so you don't miss any future conversations on your favorite movies and TV. After Days of Future Past had such incredible results, after Bryan Singer, John Ottman, the original team, came back, binded the two franchises and two casts together, and then set up to adapt yet another seminal X-Men story from the comics with Age of Apocalypse, we were all excited because we were just coming out of the hype of Days of Future Past. The team was promising, the franchise was set in the right course, but they had a 2-year turnaround. And I don't think that allowed them as storytellers to trim out the edges, to trim out some of the fat in this film, and to adjust the proper story they wanted to tell. Because Apocalypse overall feels like the result of a rush production, like they just wanted to get this film out ASAP. And I think that damages the film, because I don't think this is a film without praiseworthy elements. I don't think this is a film that is entirely bad. I like this film, like I said. But it is an underwhelming movie for what this story could and should be. Not only because of the original material, source material that exists, but because of the team that is involved in this. And so it's a frustrating result, an underwhelming result, but not an outright bad result, I feel. After the events of Days of Future Past, they set up this brand new timeline, and so Apocalypse feels like this brand new starting point. And as the 80s movie of the franchise, it has this overall angsty vibe and attitude to it. The visuals and aesthetics are fucking metal. Even the costumes are metal. Like, why is Psylocke's onesie look like armor? It shouldn't be armor. Look at Magneto's suit. It's so over the top and in your face. It doesn't feel like something Magneto would wear, but it's something very inspired by what Magneto would wear. Even Apocalypse is fucking metal, man. Look at the armor he's using. It's so over the top and unnecessarily so. It gives the film this overall metal badass vibe, but at points it's also kind of hilarious. But as a proverbial brand new start of the franchise, it smartly allows us to spend time with the new characters as it builds up the future of the franchise. We get to know Cyclops and Jean Grey and Nightcrawler and Storm and Quicksilver rather well through this film, not only as individuals, but the team dynamic as well. It is very much the passing of the torch from Charles and Eric to Mystique, as these movies have throughout all of them, across all of them, had this generational passing of the torch theme to it, and now Mystique's time has come, and she's reluctant to take that upon herself. She doesn't want to be the leader. She doesn't feel like she should be the leader, and so there's an interesting conflict there with her taking up this mantle. However, the film is also doing something else, and that has it running into a few issues along the way. First and foremost, while it's doing all of that, it's already the end of the fucking world. Everything about this film is massive. The size and scope is enormous. The X-Men have never had a bigger movie. I don't think Bryan Singer has ever made a bigger movie. Ships and cities are destroyed and rebuilt. Nukes are launched, the villain in this film has the literal power of opening his hand and make up something out of absolutely nothing on a literal sense. And that creates some tonal and pacing inconsistencies where it doesn't feel like the film builds up enough for its eventual payoff. It's doing a good job of setting up this brand new generation, this brand new start for the franchise. It's doing a good job of building up these characters, but then it feels like all of that is cut short when it ends in a single film. Apocalypse should have been this franchise's Infinity War to Endgame. It should have been 2 massive movies, or if you want to do a Zack Snyder's Justice League, it should have been a 4-hour movie, because there's just too much going on. There's just too many big things going on for a single movie, even if it is the longest one in the franchise at 2 hours and 30. The world building is still great though, which is how we get to know the brand new generation of mutants because of how the world was impacted by the events of Days of Future Past. The actions of Eric at the end of that film have now led to mutants being prosecuted. They still need to hide away from the world, which is very much what he is doing at first in this film. Mutants are now treated like animals if they're found. They're put into cage fights, which is how we meet Nightcrawler and Angel in a great fighting sequence, as Mystique is still taking upon this mission on herself to rescue mutants who are being mistreated, who are put in these cages, who are being prosecuted, discriminated against. Mystique has, without realizing, become that guiding hand for the next generation, a role she begrudges as she aims to rescue mutants and then leave them at the school with Charles. She doesn't see herself as this new mentor. She doesn't feel like she's ready, and she begrudges it because she's still carrying a lot of regret over her actions and mistakes in the previous film. But I love her arc where, with Charles out of action, she is forced to lead the X-Men into action in the final battle, where she has a choice of either leaving these kids alone or go with them. Take that responsibility as Charles and Hank have always wanted, and she takes upon the role. And I really like Jennifer Lawrence in this role. I think what gets in the way is the fact that Mystique is a lot of times during this film in her human form, where it kind of goes against her arc in the previous 2 films, where she wanted to be mutant and proud. And in the previous film, she spent a lot of times, unless she was hiding away or running away, trying to disguise as someone else, in her true blue form. In this one, she hides away from who she is, from what she has always defended she wanted to be, and that doesn't feel consistent. But I still think Jennifer Lawrence is good here. I still feel she is committed. And she ends up also being the anchor for Eric himself, where after joining Apocalypse for most of the film, it's ultimately the threat and fear of losing Mystique that brings Eric back to the light. Before talking about Magneto, I want to talk about Apocalypse, but before talking about Apocalypse, I want to talk about Jean Grey, who's a great parallel to him. The film treats Jean Grey, played by Sophie Turner, who I think does a really great job as well, as this enigmatic force of nature, this unknown, mysterious power. And that is treated with great weight. It generates this mystery surrounding her true potential that even Charles Xavier is afraid of. And the only other being in this film that he's afraid of is Apocalypse, who has this great scene where they first meet as Charles is using Cerebro, and Apocalypse just realizes he's there and invades and uses Cerebro from a distance, not to find mutants, not to find humans, just to find the superpowers, the weapons humanity has at their disposal, and gets rid of all of them. Apocalypse is not the most compelling villain, sadly. He's someone who just wants destruction and that's it. A bit simplistic for me, but he is portrayed as this horror movie villain, frighteningly powerful with no pomp and circumstance. His dialogue, epic and rousing and filled with the righteous pomposity for someone like this. I love the lines he's delivered. I think Oscar Isaac does a great job with these lines, and it does get across the point the film is trying to convey with a character such as this. Apocalypse is a messianic figure with a god complex, and that does bring an interesting discussion to light: relationship between mutants and a god. He's attracted to mutants at their weakest, he feels their pain and anger, and that is a theme that is best captured in Magneto's arc, who has chosen a secluded, peaceful family life away from mutants, away from his powers, amongst humans, and he even tried to save one. Which leads to that phenomenal scene, the best in the film if you ask me, where Magneto is found out, his family gets accidentally murdered, and the monster Sebastian Shaw once created comes out, where even after choosing peace for so long, choosing the right thing, he is once again shown disdain and fear and discrimination, and leads to that moment where after his family dies, after he murders those soldiers, he talks to the sky, asking if this is what he's supposed to be, if this is all he's meant to be, if he cannot escape this. That's profound. That's an interesting discussion that the film brings to light. And so Eric loses his way of fighting for mutants. He turns his back on mutant kind and everyone he knows, seeking solace in this god who is the worst version of who Magneto has always been, only to come to this realization that this god won't give him that solace he seeks. He won't save him or others like him. He doesn't fight for others like Magneto has always fought. So this god is as bad as the human god that made him supposedly who he is. That's powerful, that's profound, and I think this film does that to great effect. And that leads me to talk about Quicksilver. I think one of the stupidest things this film does is set up that arc where Quicksilver knows Magneto is his father, somehow, and he's aiming to tell him the truth, where that would be such an effective way of bringing Magneto back to the light, where he eventually looks at Mystique, he fears losing her, and so he comes back for his proverbial family, but the film sets up that there's literal family left for Magneto, and it never uses that. It never pays that setup off in this film, it never pays that setup off in the next film, and so it feels pointless. It feels without purpose, which results in the presence of Quicksilver here feeling grating. He just gets his leg broken by Apocalypse in the final battle. That should have been the moment Magneto comes in if he got to know this kid is his son. And that never happens. There's never a resolution for it. And that's not the only problem I have with Quicksilver, unfortunately. I love Evan Peters in this role. I love the Quicksilver scene on a technical level. On a directorial, visual standpoint, it is a marvelous, phenomenal achievement what they do with this scene. But it feels overall tonally deaf within the context in which it happens. Its light tone takes all the weight away from Havoc's death, who was brought back in this film as this kind of mentor, older brother type to Scott, and we're meant to feel this pain that Scott is feeling once he dies, but their relationship was never developed or explored. It was presented. They're brothers, Havoc brings him into the school, that's it. And suddenly, here comes Stryker, who feels so suddenly that he's in this film where he doesn't fit in with the rest of the story. It's another plot dropped in midway through the film. Stryker's involvement and subsequent scenes just don't feel like they belong in this story. It makes sense in the grander context of the X-Men franchise, or where this franchise is going, or where the timeline is going, but he just suddenly shows up after the explosion. It feels too detached from everything that is going on. It does lead up to Jean and Scott and Kurt helping the others escape as they infiltrate Stryker's facility in Alkali Lake. We get to see the team dynamic, the personalities bouncing off of one another, and it does give us a violent, gnarly, gruesome Wolverine cameo that is so much fun to watch, and also feels entirely shoehorned into this film. At the same time, it is a Hugh Jackman Wolverine cameo that satisfies my violent cravings, so I cannot complain too much. I do love the final battle in this film though. I think it's one of the best in the X-Men franchise. It features all the great qualities of a Bryan Singer directed action sequence, that it's grand, it's bombastic, it's huge, but features the stellar elements that have always distinguished his style and this franchise, and that is seeing the smaller character moments where we see the dynamic at play within a grander action sequence. Whether it is the one-on-one fights, Kurt getting his rematch with Angel, Beast versus Psylocke, Jean trying to save Professor Xavier, all of them just working together, and it's so much fun to see, while at the same time the world around them is crumbling apart. I just love these character moments where we see the team dynamic at play, the one-on-one fights, the X-Men strategizing and then having to replan the strategy together. It also builds to this incredible crescendo where Charles Xavier has a choice. He can either succumb to this monster that is Apocalypse, and I love the scene inside his mind where Apocalypse grows and is beating the crap out of him, but Charles can choose to unleash this monster he fears and doesn't exactly understand in Jean Grey, this mysterious power that she holds. The film's build-up of the new team is paid off, and the cross-generational theme is brought home as they unlock the ultimate tool to defeat Apocalypse, not through his subordination, subjugation, it's care, it's trust, it's building each other up that brings them ultimate victory as they all work together, and ultimately Jean unleashes the Phoenix and just disintegrates him into nothingness. Is it a cheesy theme? Absolutely. But this is the 80s and it is effective and uplifting at the end. Another thing I love is the final scene. We finally get comic accurate suits that look incredible on each of them. From Mystiques to Jeans to Beasts to Cyclops to Nightcrawlers to Storms. It's incredible to see these suits come to life as Charles and Eric once again separate, saying goodbye to each other, and we get the legendary line from Charles Xavier.
What do you do when you wake up to that? I feel a great swell of pity for the poor soul that comes to my school looking for trouble.
He has finally passed the torch to Mystique, Mystique has finally accepted it, but I will never forgive the next movie for not giving us back these suits and just going to the generic Ultimate X-Men black and yellow cross ones. It's frustrating that we built everything up to never pay it off. It's something that really captures X-Men Apocalypse to me. X-Men Apocalypse is the result of a rushed production. It's a blast as an action movie. It has interesting character dynamics, but unfortunately, there's just way too much going on for a single film where not everything or everyone feels like they have a purpose to be here, and so the end result is solid enough inconsistency. I'm giving X-Men Apocalypse a B-. Because despite my frustrations and overall underwhelming feeling, I still really love the parts that are good in this film. So it's frustrating, it's not as good as it should be, but it's good enough. But those are only my thoughts on X-Men Apocalypse. Let me know your thoughts on it down in the comments below. Don't forget that I've reviewed every single X-Men movie up until now. My review for Days of Future Past is right up here, and you can check out all the others on the channel right now. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for the final X-Men review. I hope to see you there, and in all the previous ones I've done if you haven't seen them. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my channel members, and until the next one, love each other and love the movies.